Hello, lovely families. Gather around, it's story time. Today we're embarking on a journey through 5 captivating tales from the Bible. We'll explore Ezekiel's visions of a chariot and of dry bones, witness Daniel's encounters with a fiery furnace and a den of lions, and marvel at Solomon's wise judgment. Each of these stories is a treasure chest filled with lessons waiting to be discovered. So are you ready to dive into these amazing stories? Here we go. Our first story is about a man named Ezekiel who had a vision of a chariot. Ezekiel, a prophet living in a time of great upheaval, experienced an extraordinary vision that took him beyond the realm of the ordinary. Imagine a sky unfolding with a whirlwind coming out of the north, a great cloud with a fire flashing forth continually and a bright light around it. In the midst of this spectacle, there appeared a likeness of 4 living creatures. Each of these creatures had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot. They sparkled like burnished bronze. Attached to these creatures was what Ezekiel described as a wheel within a wheel. These wheels were full of eyes all around, moving in unison with the creatures, never turning as they moved. Above the heads of these creatures, there was the likeness of a throne, gleaming like sapphire, and seated on the throne was a figure, radiant and awesome. Now you might be wondering, what could all this mean? Well, Ezekiel's vision was not just a spectacle of divine theatrics. It was a symbol, a message from God. The creatures, with their multiple faces, represented the omnipresence of God, his ability to see in all directions, to be everywhere at once. The wheels, intricate and full of eyes, symbolized the wisdom and omnipotence of God. They showed that God's actions are guided by his perfect knowledge and understanding. The throne represented God's sovereignty, his reign over all creation. But perhaps most importantly, the vision of the chariot symbolized God's divine presence and mobility. It showed that God was not confined to a temple or a geographical location. He could move and be present anywhere and everywhere, even amongst his people in exile. Through this vision, Ezekiel learned a profound truth about God's nature. He learned that no matter where we are, God is always with us, guiding us. And that is a comforting thought, isn't it? Ezekiel learned that no matter where we are, God is always with us, guiding us. Now, let's move on to another of Ezekiel's visions, the vision of dry bones. In this vision, Ezekiel found himself in a valley filled to the brim with dry bones. These bones were scattered about, devoid of life, a stark representation of desolation and hopelessness. But the story doesn't end there. As Ezekiel stood amidst this valley of dry bones, he heard the voice of God. God asked Ezekiel, "Can these bones live?" And Ezekiel responded, "O Lord God, thou knowest." Following this, God commanded Ezekiel to prophesy over these bones. He was told to say, "O dry bones, hear the word of the Lord." And as Ezekiel spoke these words, a miraculous event unfolded. The bones started to move, they rattled and began to come together. Bone to bone, joint to joint, they formed skeletons. And then, as if this spectacle was not awe-inspiring enough, tendons and flesh started to cover these skeletons. Before Ezekiel's very eyes, these dry bones transformed into a vast army of living, breathing beings. What does this vision mean? It's a symbol of hope and rebirth. You see, these dry bones represented the people of Israel in exile. Their spirits dried up, feeling as dead and hopeless as the bones in the valley. But God showed Ezekiel, and through him, us, that no matter how dire the situation, how desolate the landscape, there is always the potential for life and renewal. God's power breathed life into these dry bones, just as his love and mercy can breathe life into the most hopeless of situations. This was not merely a promise to the people of Israel during their exile, but a timeless message of hope for all of us. It teaches us that no matter how challenging our circumstances may be, there is always a glimmer of hope. With God's help, we can find the strength to rise, just like those dry bones in the valley. From this vision, Ezekiel learned that with God's help, we can find hope even in the most difficult times. Our next story takes us to a fiery furnace and a man named Daniel. In the ancient kingdom of Babylon, there lived a wise man named Daniel and his 3 friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. King Nebuchadnezzar, the ruler of Babylon, had a towering golden statue made, and he ordered everyone in his kingdom to bow down and worship this statue. But Daniel and his friends, steadfast in their faith, refused to obey the king's command. Their refusal did not sit well with King Nebuchadnezzar. Enraged, he ordered that these 3 men be thrown into a fiery furnace, one so hot that it consumed the soldiers who were tasked with throwing them in. The king was certain no one could survive such a punishment. Yet, as he peered into the furnace, he saw not 3 but 4 figures walking unharmed amidst the flames. The 4th figure, he said, looked like a son of the gods. Astonished, King Nebuchadnezzar ordered the furnace doors be opened and Daniel and his friends to come out. As they stepped out, everyone was amazed. Not a hair on their heads was singed, their robes were unscathed, and there was no smell of fire on them. It was a miracle. Their faith had protected them from the fiery furnace. King Nebuchadnezzar was humbled by this miracle. He declared that no one should ever say anything against Daniel's God, for no other God could save in this way. Daniel and his friends had stood up for their beliefs, refusing to abandon their faith even in the face of certain death. Their courage had not only saved them, but also transformed a king's heart. Daniel and his friends showed us that staying true to what we believe in, even when it's hard, is a true sign of courage. Stay with me because we're not done with Daniel just yet. This time, he's in a den full of lions. Our story begins with Daniel, a man of unwavering faith and devotion to God. He lived in a time when King Darius ruled the land. Despite being a high-ranking official in the king's court, Daniel never let his status deter him from his daily prayers to God. One day, the other officials, envious of Daniel's favor with the king, hatched a devious plan. They persuaded King Darius to issue a decree that for 30 days anyone who prayed to any god or human except the king would be thrown into a den of lions. Daniel, however, remained steadfast in his faith. He continued to pray to God as he had always done, even in the face of severe punishment. When the officials found Daniel praying, they were quick to report him to the king. Despite his fondness for Daniel, the king had no choice but to uphold his decree. With a heavy heart, he ordered Daniel to be thrown into the lion's den. The den was sealed, leaving Daniel alone with the hungry lions. Yet, Daniel held on to his faith, praying to God for deliverance. As the night passed, everyone waited for the dawn, expecting the worst. When the stone was rolled away from the den's entrance the next morning, to everyone's astonishment, Daniel emerged unscathed. God had sent an angel to shut the lions' mouths, protecting Daniel from harm. His faith had saved him from a gruesome fate. King Darius was overjoyed and immediately ordered Daniel to be lifted out of the den. In awe of the miraculous event, he issued a new decree, declaring that all his subjects should fear and revere Daniel's God. For he had saved Daniel, a man who served him continually and never ceased praying. And once again, Daniel showed us the power of faith and prayer. Daniel's story is a testament to the strength of unwavering faith and the power of prayer, reminding us that even in the face of danger, our faith can guide us to safety. Opening. Our final story is about a wise king named Solomon. In the ancient city of Jerusalem, there lived a king who was known for his wisdom far and wide. His name was Solomon. One day, 2 women came before King Solomon, each claiming to be the mother of the same baby. The women lived together and had both given birth to boys around the same time. However, one of the infants tragically passed away in the night, leaving both women to claim the surviving baby as their own. King Solomon listened to their pleas. The first woman insisted, "The living child is mine, and the dead one is hers." The second woman countered, "No, the living one is my son, and the dead one is yours." Their voices filled the court with desperation and sorrow. But King Solomon sat calm and composed, his gaze steady, his mind turning. Solomon, in his wisdom, proposed a solution that shocked everyone present. He called for his servant and said, "Bring me a sword. Divide the living child in 2, and give half to one woman and half to the other." A gasp echoed through the court, but Solomon watched the women's reactions carefully. The first woman, her face pale, cried out, "Oh, my lord, give her the living child, and by no means kill him." But the second woman, cold and bitter, said, "Neither I nor you shall have him. Let him be divided." In that moment, King Solomon knew who the real mother was. He declared, "Give the living child to the first woman. She is his mother." The court erupted in murmurs of awe and admiration for King Solomon's wisdom. He had cleverly devised a test that revealed the true mother's love, willing to give up her claim to save her child's life. Closing. King Solomon teaches us the importance of wisdom and fairness in making decisions. His wisdom was not just about having knowledge, but about understanding the human heart. And his fairness was not just about following rules, but about seeing truth and justice. Just as Solomon used his wisdom and fairness to make tough decisions, so can we in our everyday lives. Wow! Those were some incredible stories, weren't they? Let's take a moment to reflect on the lessons we've learned today. First, we journeyed with Ezekiel and witnessed his awe-inspiring vision of a chariot. This story reminds us of the grandeur and majesty of our Creator, and how his works are beyond our human comprehension. It's a humbling reminder that there is a divine power that guides us all. Then we delved into another of Ezekiel's visions, the Valley of Dry Bones. This tale taught us about hope and resurrection. No matter how dry or lifeless a situation might seem, there's always a chance for renewal and revival. It's a lesson about faith, about believing in the possibilities even when they seem improbable. Next, we followed Daniel into the fiery furnace. His courage in the face of adversity and his unwavering faith in God's protection is a lesson for us all. It encourages us to stand firm in our beliefs, even when the heat is on. Remember, just as the flames did not harm Daniel, our trials will not consume us if we have faith. We stayed with Daniel as he entered the lion's den. His story taught us that even in the face of danger, we can find peace when we trust in a higher power. It's a testament to the power of prayer and a reminder that divine protection is always at hand. Lastly, we learned from Solomon and his wise judgment. His wisdom in discerning the true mother of the child shows us the importance of understanding, empathy, and justice. It's a lesson in making wise decisions, in seeking truth, and in being fair. So as we end our story time today, I invite you to reflect on these stories. They're not just tales from a distant past, but timeless lessons that hold relevance even today. As we navigate through life's challenges, let's remember Ezekiel's visions, Daniel's faith, and Solomon's wisdom. Let's carry these lessons with us, applying them in our daily lives and sharing them with others. After all, these stories are more than just bedtime tales. They're a treasure trove of wisdom, a guiding light for our journey, and a testament to the power of faith, hope, and love. Thank you for joining us for Storytime. Good night, lovely families. Until next time.